Welcome to Business Not 101, hosted by me, Olivier Bousset, founder, entrepreneur, podcast creator. In this episode, we explore the founder's journey from their aha moment to the roadblocks and problems, to what they would have done differently in hindsight, and the unique solutions they came up with. I hope you enjoy this episode. Hi guys, welcome to Business Not 101. Let's get right into it. Give us your introduction and your 60-second business pitch.
Hi, everyone. Thank you for having us here today. I'm Chaity. I'm one of the co-founders of NameShouts. I am also the COO. I take care of operations and data at NameShouts.
Hi, my name is Noor. I am one of the co-founders of NameShouts. As a startup, we have multiple roles. So I'm the CEO and the CTO. So what is NameShouts? NameShouts is a platform that helps you pronounce names. Every new relationship, every new connection that we make, it starts with learning a new name, and we help people do that. So it's, if you are at work or if you have a meeting and, you don't know how to pronounce a name, you can go to our website, you can type in a name. If you know the language of origin, that's great. And you get instant access to the audio and the phonetic respelling of the name. So today we support 400,000 names across 22 of the world's most used languages. They include languages like Hindi, Tamil, Hebrew, Arabic. And people who use us today, they primarily use us for work. So last month, we have had over 50,000 visitors, and they include individuals, small businesses, and, large enterprises like Humana and Allstate.
That's really interesting. So what was your aha moment behind this project?
Yeah, so I think Chaity and I, we had different we experienced the problem in different ways. Right after graduating from McGill, I started working at a German company, and I was coming across a lot of hard to pronounce European names. And, I was having a hard time finding a good solution on the internet. And Chaity, I think she faced the problem in another way.
Yeah, so I was on the receiving end of this problem. My name, it's not written, the spelling is not phonetic, so it gets mispronounced a lot. I get called Katie or Charity a lot. And I also was a new immigrant to Quebec. I didn't speak any French, and I was butchering French names all the time. So it wasn't one eureka moment. It was more like a persistent frustration over time that Naureen and I were both having. And eventually we were like, let's create a solution. There has to be a better way.
Yeah, it's interesting. And it's so true. It's one of the problems we face coming to a new place or working with a new company, certainly international company. So that's great. When you first started this to where you are now, did you guys have a major pivot, or has your business remained pretty much in line with what you originally thought?
I think that when we first built the tool, we sort of created it for ourselves. And, initially we were having a lot of problem with what we call foreign names, so names that were basically not English names. And when we sort of released the website, I think one of the feedback that we got from our users is that they wanted English. And I think while building NameShouts, we realized that English names, especially English last names, can be very, very complicated. So I think right now we support all the languages, and our vision is really to become a universal name pronunciation tool. And I think the other major pivot that we had is that we started off as maybe not knowing a lot about the business aspect. And we realized that people who were using us most, who were having this problem more frequently, were, salespeople who were trying to, close a deal or reach out to a new client. And they mentioned that for them, time is often a factor. So they mentioned that they would love, an integration next to maybe a customer's name. So we realized that, we had to prioritize working on the API so that they could have the play button next to, any name on any CRM and not waste time, but to have it right at their fingertips.
That's really interesting. And I like the API part of it that you were mentioning. I think that's so important, certainly for salespeople, to be able to pronounce the person's name to get that opening conversation started. And that's something we don't think of. A lot of people use email to sort of cover that up. But even when you do talk to the person, if you're in a position that you're reaching out to them, it's really important to say their name properly. A lot of people take offense when their name is sort of butchered. And I'm the king of butchering names, so I know. That's what it happens to me all the time. All right. Since you've launched this, what was one of the biggest roadblocks you guys encountered?
Yeah, so when you are a startup founder, like in the early stages, there are many roadblocks, there are many challenges you face, but the biggest was probably one was funding. We had to be very capital efficient. We had to we had to prioritize, what to spend on because the resources are very limited. Even our time is very limited there. At the beginning, there were just the two of us, me and Noreen, so we had to brutally prioritize because if something needs to be done, one of us has to do it. There are no other resources available. So yeah, prioritizing and deciding what to choose, like choosing what to spend money on and what to forego.
Yeah, funding is one of the hardest things, I think, for most startups. And did you guys feel, as two women, because you're two women founders, did you struggle to get financing and to get funding from investment firms, or did you bootstrap your project from get-go and it was never an issue?
Yeah, so we essentially bootstrap because I think when I quit my job, I had a little bit of savings which I put into the business, and then Chaity and I, we were part time on this until 2019 actually. So we had, I think that there are probably issues that women founders face when it comes to funding. Like we can look at the stats and stuff, but one-on-one we try to not sort of think about it. We sort of want to pitch and present the best version of ourselves and our company, and then we try to sort of like get funding if possible. But i think I think that would probably be our advice to minority founders, is that do your best, and there's probably enough people there's probably an investor out there who'd love your business, who'd get you and would want to invest on you. And I think we got a lot of help from the community because we were minority women founders. I think that there are some pros to being a minority woman founder. I think people are more likely to meet you. They invite you to events. So there are pros and cons, to being a woman founder. Chaity, do you have anything to
Yeah,
add to that?
and pre-seed funding is extremely challenging for everyone. We speak to many like male, straight male, white founders, and it's very challenging for them as well. It's not easy for anybody. So I don't know if it has been specifically hard for us. I think this is just a very challenging problem for everybody at our stage.
Yeah, and it's true. Only 1% of businesses get funded. And
Mhm.
certainly if you don't have a full team, so if you're a solo entrepreneur, it's almost impossible getting funding because
Mhm.
they want teams. So looking now forward to your next part of your business and sort of looking backwards at your roadblocks, if you can go and leave yourself a 30-second or 60-second voicemail, what would it say that you should do differently or that you should have jumped on first?
Do you want to take that?
30-second voicemail. That's very challenging. Yeah. I would just tell myself to, believe in NameShouts, keep going. Basically, what we have done actually, like keep going, keep working towards it. Maybe prioritize better. Maybe, one of the advices that we have learned, maybe don't try to do everything yourself. Try to delegate more. Yeah. Try to get other people, hire professionals if you can.
Yeah, I
That's
think for
interesting.
me it would be similar. Yeah.
For me, it's hiring an accountant right away.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because it's something that you don't think of until it's a bit late, and then you're scrambling to find things every tax season.
Yeah.
Switching gears a little bit for marketing, what has been your most successful tool for marketing NameShouts?
Yeah, so we didn't have a very concrete marketing plan. We started out as we mentioned that we didn't really know what we were doing. We sort of stumbled on like figuring out the right channels that works for NameShout. So I think for us, content marketing has been really, really great. We have a freemium business model in the sense that we provide our service for free, and I think that tends to generate like a lot of organic word of mouth if your product is good. And I think that's been a very helpful channel. And over time, because of content marketing, we were ranked higher in our SEO, and that helped bring up a lot of organic traffic. So most of our growth has actually been organic because like Google keywords, and we just prioritize SEOs and content marketing, and that seemed to work really, really well for us.
That's really interesting. Do you feel with LinkedIn, certainly that's how I met you, is LinkedIn really working for you guys? Certainly because it is much more of sort of tuned towards business people using it, and with the API, has that something been very successful for you guys?
So we've tested LinkedIn, and LinkedIn is great. I think it's definitely one of the channels. For us, it's actually been Twitter. Twitter has been really, really helpful when it comes to NameShouts. we've been able to find, the right customers, the right influencers who really get this, who identify with their problem. And we often see our users, like recommending our product on Twitter. So, but yeah, so I think every, business will probably have their right social media channel, whether it's, TikTok or LinkedIn or Instagram, or for us, it's Twitter. Yeah.
That's really interesting. You mentioned TikTok, and I spend way too much time on TikTok. So being an expert in it, I feel. Are you guys planning to go on to that? Because I think you guys sort of a unique business model that actually would fit really well on TikTok to show people how to pronounce names and the difficulty around it. Is this something you guys are looking into?
It's definitely something we are looking into. So our head of, like, our marketing person, Seth, has been playing around with TikTok. So it's something that, you're right, it's very viral, and names are often butchered. So it's perfect TikTok content, and it's something that we definitely want to explore more.
Yeah, NameShout needs a TikTok channel.
It does. It does. Just for me, just to be able to watch these things. I think it'd be so funny watching people, and I think there's a lot of content creation right there, just saying names. So, but on the next step with social media, where do you guys feel that is probably one of the best outlets for your business to move forward to? So let's say if you had to get out of going from sales to some other field, where would it go? Would it be education, or is it something you feel it's always going to sort of remain in the sales aspect?
Yeah, so we monitor, like, so we have data analytics on the website, and I think we were surprised a bit by our findings, especially, I guess, ever since COVID happened, sales activity sort of went down, and we could see that people have been using NameShouts, educators have been using NameShouts a lot more, and very, very frequently, especially in the US. And after talking to a few of the teachers as well as the students, we realized why that's the case. I think almost 50%. So Gen Z is like the most diverse generation ever, and they really care about their identity and culture, and they take pride in their names. So teachers really like make that effort to pronounce students' names correctly. We also found that HR, actually, so as we are doing more remote meetings, as Zoom calls have become more the norm, you want to feel connected to your coworkers, and that's hard to do if you keep butchering their names on Zoom calls. So we see that there's an uptick in usage in HR, and like people just trying to create more inclusive and work environments for their colleagues, and just try to connect with each other more.
That's really interesting. Yeah, that's what I felt. I felt when I was watching your website and playing with it, I felt it wasn't just a sales tool. And that's why I asked, because I see so many opportunities, certainly with linguistics and teachers and HR. I didn't even think about it, but it's so true. Communities, events. That's something that a lot of people, unless you have a lot of experience with names, I'm always amazed at an MC host who can actually say everybody's names properly. Because if I was up on stage, I'd be butchering everybody's names and having to repeat a million times in my head. So switching gears a little bit, and we would like to know more about you guys as entrepreneurs. And I'd like to know, one thing that I ask everybody is, because you're busy and there's so many dynamics in your business, how do you guys stay productive?
Okay, so I'll go first. Productivity is an interest of mine. So as Chaity probably knows, I read like all the business books and stuff and all the best practices, and I'm like trying out different systems. I think for me, what's currently working is, especially for entrepreneurs, I think it's important to focus, because I think there are just so many millions of things that you can do. There are so many good ideas, right? That might work for your business, but you have to identify which one will be like the most effective and really, really focus on that. I think that also, like, schedule time for deep work. So just like 4 hours where you're just working on a task, like, and make sure that you're not interrupted, which is very, very difficult, but schedule that time. And I think the other, probably the one, is that have a not to do list. So don't do everything, delegate as much as possible, but also you cannot do everything, but do the things that matter most, and it's very hard to do.
Yeah, for me, again, I try to be productive, but I think what really helps is like the things that Noreen mentioned. On top of that, I think for myself, having deadlines help, having like a list of priorities, making sure I'm only working on the highest priority things right now, because that's a challenge for me because I am an ideas person. I get distracted by the newest, shiniest idea. So it's very hard for me to sometimes focus on the more like tedious tasks that need to get done and not work on the coolest thing that is like in right now. So yeah, it's just sticking to priorities, setting deadlines for myself and making sure I stick to deadlines.
Yeah, I hear. Same thing for me. I do time blocking and 2-minute rule. So if it can be done in 2 minutes, I get it done in the morning. And time blocking to block out everything. I shut off my phone. I take everything away, and I focus on the task. Because otherwise, like I said, I can get on TikTok, and then next thing you know, it's supper time, and I'm like, oh, what did I do? What is one thing that drains your time that you wish you can sort of pass on to somebody else? And again, I would say like accounting is one of my pet peeves. But what is it for you guys?
Chaity, do you want to go first?
Yeah, so personally for me, the admin, the legal work definitely could be done by someone else. It's not necessarily difficult, but does take up a lot of time. And I feel like this is easily someone else could do. Yeah, a lot of the HR work, like, contracts and stuff, it could definitely be given to someone else.
Yeah, I think for me, it's accounting. I second that. Accounting can be a pain point. I think having like some kind of software, like we use QuickBooks, that definitely helps, but it's not as automated as it can be. That's just my general thoughts. I think, yeah.
That's so funny. My accountant, if he listens to this podcast, will be very happy to hear that he still has a job at the end of this. Everybody always says the same thing about counting. So one thing I always ask people is, did you guys have a mentor or a business coach that helped you along? And if yes, do you suggest people to have one?
Yes. So I think our advice would be have many, business coaches, like maybe have 3 or 4 people you really, really admire. So when we did Founder Fuel, but even before that, we've always had business coaches that have been like guiding us and helping us. And it's important to find people, especially I guess the best business coaches would be maybe founders, who are maybe 3 or 4 or 5 years ahead of you, maybe a Series B or Series C founders, because they can help you a lot. But also someone maybe who's 20 years older, who's been like, in the business for a long time. So I think it's good to have different perspectives. So I wouldn't say have one, have many, and have like different perspectives, because then they will help you challenge your thinking, and you'll have a bit better understanding of the business and the landscape. Chaity, what about you?
Yeah, so I highly recommend having mentors, and I would say have different mentors at different stages of your company, because your startups move so fast. Like your company is different every 6 months. So you need mentors for different stages, and you definitely need multiple mentors. Like, for example, for us, when we were in the incubation stage, we had mentorship from District 3. Then we did Founderful when we were a little bit more mature. And then now we have a different set of mentors, again, through like Mentor Connect of District 3. So have different mentors at different stages, and definitely get multiple mentors to help you in different areas of your business.
That's brilliant. Yeah, really well said. Are you guys planning to be mentors for other businesses if you're not already?
Yeah, we would love to. We are still fairly early stage, but if there are founders, especially female founders, this is like a cause very like close to my heart. If I can help them with anything at all, any kind of advice, if they're at an earlier stage than us, I would love to help them. Even if it's like not a former mentor-mentee relationship, if they just want to talk to me for a few minutes, I'm always available to talk to them.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's brilliant. It's because you guys have 7 years of experience in a couple of incubators. You have a lot already under your belt that most people don't get to experience. Certainly for people who start their business later in life, it's harder for them to get into these programs because they're sort of not in that sort of circle. And I find I always ask people that question now because I wonder how many people have, they have, either a mentor or a business coach. And then I ask them, would you do it for somebody? And they're always like, oh yeah, I haven't thought about that. So I think it's really important to keep passing around the information. So that's brilliant. One question I'd like to ask everybody is, certainly because now you guys are a team and you have a team of people that work with you, how do you guys do your well-being? How do you keep yourselves in, mental and physical shape because it's obviously taxing having a business and everything that goes with it.
Yeah, so for me, I don't probably work out as much as I should or watch my diet as much as I should. But I think one habit that I sort of have taken on in the last 2 years is just trying to meditate, maybe like actually I 20 minutes a day, I try to meditate first thing in the morning. And the other thing that's really helped Chaity and me, and I think it's also helped our co-founder relationship, is that 3 or 4 times a day we would go for walks, especially during quarantine, together and discuss the business and our life. And I think that it's really important to schedule downtime, as a founder, because I think it is a very long road. We all, it's usually like quick success stories are really rare. So you have to take rest and make sure you don't burn out, because that can happen.
Yeah, for me, going on walks with Noreen and even by myself have been very helpful. And just maybe sometimes just doing nothing, you sit around and do nothing and you just think about things. So doing nothing for maybe, 10, 20 minutes a day is very important. And, do nice things for yourself, get a massage, go for like a spa, or, get a manicure, do something nice for yourself once in a while.
Yeah, that's really important. It's self-care and doing things for yourself and downtime. I think it's important. Switching gears a little bit. This is one that I really enjoy. Is there a business book that you have either, and each of you can answer this, that you've read that has had an impact? It can either be a business book or non-business book, but it had a direct impact on your business and sort of your journey of entrepreneurship.
Yeah, so I guess for me, I think the one book that I recommend, early stage founders, it's called The Mom Test. So it basically just talks about how to interview your potential users or customers. And I think that's something because you as an entrepreneur, you often have an idea, but I do think that validating that with your customers is very important. And that book it's more tactical, but it has some really good points. And that's sort of why we built like this new. So NameShouts, the earlier version, was more for the consumer, and then we sort of took out the lessons from the Mom Test and we interviewed our core group of users, and that's how we sort of built this new version, which was based on what they wanted. So I would recommend that book, The Mom Test.
Yeah, for me, it was probably the book Getting Things Done. It's a good book for productivity. I think you've read it as well. You mentioned it earlier in the podcast. I don't read a lot of business books, but I think this has really helped me like keep track of my tasks.
Excellent. Yes. The Mom Test I've heard of, but I hadn't actually read the book. So that's really interesting. All right. If you can have coffee with a famous entrepreneur, who would it be and why? I'll let each of you answer that.
Chaity, you want to go first?
Yeah, so for me, I think it's going to be Tim Ferriss, just because I'm a big fan of his books and his podcasts. I listen to him a lot. And I like that he's not just about business. He talks about, just life in general. He talks about like health, diet. So I think we could have like a well-rounded conversation.
Yeah, and for me, it's actually Melanie Perkins from Canva.com. So she's an Australian founder. She built her business out of Silicon Valley. I just really love her values. I think that, as tech people, we focus a lot on maybe the numbers and, the revenue, but I think we should also like think about the social impact of our work and like be a bit more well-rounded. And I think she has that, and she's built. I hear that the culture of Canva is amazing. So, at some point we want to have a great culture at NameShouts. So I want to know how she did that.
That's great. All right, last question. How can people reach out and connect with you? What's the best way?
Yeah, so for me, I'm always available on Twitter and LinkedIn. So, you can always reach out to me and drop in a message, and, I'll get back to you for sure. Yeah, I try to get back to everyone who messages me. So
yeah, same. I'm on Twitter and LinkedIn. You can look me up, Chaity Tarafder, and I try to reply to anyone who reaches out to me. So just drop me a line and I'll get back to you.
Excellent. And we'll be adding those links onto this podcast description. So I want to thank you both for having the patience through all this initial hiccup, but as well taking the time to have this interview with me. So I really appreciate it. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having us. It's been an absolute pleasure. Right, Chaity?
Thank you so much for having us, and it was wonderful talking to you. And I hope we gave something interesting to your listeners.
Thank you for joining us today and listening to this episode of Business Not 101. I hope that this interview gave you some valuable insights and that will help you along your business journey. If you have any questions, comments, feel free to reach out to me. And as always, please like, share, and follow. Thank you. Until next episode.